Hi there, good evening and welcome to our session. I'm extremely sorry for the delay. Online में ना delay थोड़ा और भी अजीब हो जाता है यार, because you're sitting there and you're wondering what's gonna happen. But apparently there are some glitches happening in the server backend, something that I'm not 100% certain of. But now that I'm here, let us sit down and talk about verbal reasoning of NMAT. So this is a session that was taken some 2-3 days ago, but then it somehow vanished from our YouTube playlist, and therefore we are scheduling it again. So if you have attended this session with Savitri ma'am live 2-3 days ago, then it is going to be a repeat. There are no new questions sadly, and thus you can choose to sign out or maybe just remain with me, and then you can create an impression of being, super accurate on everyone else. Okay, you can scare the others through your sensational accuracy rate. Will that work? Okay, so join in. And okay, and then there were some of you who were with me in the class earlier in the day, and you had these issues with critical reasoning. So if there is any issue that you've been facing, please ask. I would love to address those issues before I go ahead and talk about the rest of the stuff. What say you? I'm not even sure if the class is on, guys. Could you tell me if the class is live for you? Why does it not show the class as live for me? Okay, so hi Hirva, Sonali, Anish. Okay, I do see you guys here. I am somehow not able to. Okay, fantastic. That's great to know. Then it is a problem only at my end, it appears. I need to reboot my phone as well now, apparently. I'll just go to the home page and okay, found the right link now. Okay, now I'm able to read your messages effortlessly. So questions, KKF Cliff, is 250 plus possible in under 2 months? KKF Clips, anything is possible. I mean, you've heard of zero probability in life? I haven't. As long as you're alive, is that possible? Yes. And if you are 221, hopefully you should be able to do better. Hirva, can you talk about the difficulty level of XGMT of VARC? XGMT as in what would that be? I vaguely remember this exam. I do vaguely remember this exam. We're talking about Xavier's Bhubaneswar, right? Right, Xavier's General Management Test, which is I think for ExamB. Yeah, I don't recall tracking that exam, but I'll have to get back to you on this. I'll have to get back to you on this. I'd have to look at the papers. I generally do not track it because very few students of mine actually go on to write it. So. But I'll get back to you on this. I'll look it up and I'll let you know. Gaurav, I need your support getting parajumbles. Hey Gaurav, we definitely conduct a session on parajumbles. Otherwise, if you are already an enrolled student at BYJU'S Exam Prep, just reach out to me, drop in a doubt and specifically ask that you want to be connected to me, and it will be taken care of. Okay, so we'd sit down together, we'd be able to work on it. Okay, so considering that we are already delayed a bit, let us go ahead and start. So we know that NMAT has language skills and NMAT also has a reasoning section. So within language skills, these are the kind of things that get asked, and within The reasoning section, you have a lot of verbal reasoning questions, and in fact their numbers have only been steadily inching up. Here is the last 4-year analysis. So from 19 to 21 you had exactly 18 questions, but in 22 that number increased by another 5. So instead of 18 we actually had 23 questions based on verbal reasoning. Most of them were limited to critical reasoning, statement, assumption, statement, conclusion, course of action. But then you notice that there is a wide variety of critical reasoning questions that are here. There are other varieties, but CR still gets a lion's share. And this was another change, because if I compare it with 2019, 2019 actually had a lot of other varieties, the non regular critical reasoning question. So, you know, when I say critical reasoning question, I am talking about a question where you have a paragraph followed by a question stem that asks you to assume, infer, strengthen, weaken, all those sorts of things, right? So specifically these, okay, so paragraph based questions. So these are different question types that are non-paragraph based, and then you have all of these paragraph based questions where you are asked to identify assumptions or inferences or strengthening the argument, weakening the argument, parallel reasoning, resolving the paradox, completing the argument. Okay, so these are the kind of questions that you can get in under this label called CR that we used for the 22 analysis. So these are the question types that we plan to focus on in this particular session. Make sure that you keep answering as fast as you can so that we can keep progressing as fast as we can. But that does not mean that you cannot ask me questions or concerns. If you're not very sure of the concepts involved with a particular question type, feel more than free to drop in a line in the chat, and I'd of course go ahead and answer it. So here is your first question. Go ahead, solve it, and then I'll tell you how I look at these questions or how I go on to deal with these questions. Answers, guys, answers. Okay, so Anirudh has set the ball rolling. What about the rest of us? Okay, so first up, now I'll tell you how I approach it. So for me, this is step 1. I always start off by reading the question stem. I do not even bother looking at the paragraph first. So unless I know what I'm supposed to do, what is the point in reading that paragraph anyway? So now I know that I'm being asked for an assumption. So now when I go to the paragraph, I look for a conclusion along with the premises. So this here is the conclusion. And on what basis are we saying that the innocent passenger pays for the driver's carelessness? In most of the automobile accidents, the driver survives, the passenger dies. Therefore, the innocent passenger pays for the driver's carelessness. The assumption, actually there are two assumptions here. The first assumption is that the accident was, or the accidents are caused by the driver's carelessness. So accidents are caused by driver's carelessness. Accident occurred, therefore the driver was careless. Right? The other assumption is that passengers have no role to play in that accident. You know, there are times even the passengers can create a nuisance. I've seen so many movies where somebody sitting on the back seat grabs the neck of the driver and that leads to an accident. Who you call those passengers innocent now? Not at all, sir, not at all. So there are two assumptions here. Accidents are caused by driver's carelessness, and the other assumption is that the passengers are not responsible. So what do I see here? So A definitely gives me one of those assumptions. Then I see somebody has picked up C. Fatalities in automobile accidents are suffered by passengers of cars rather than pedestrians. That's irrelevant. Whether the pedestrians die or not is irrelevant to this argument. This is out of scope. And then we have D, there should be more protection. Hey, this is something that can be termed as an inference. This is a conclusion. I should write it up here. This is an inference that you can draw. It is something that you can conclude. It is not an assumption. Remember, assumption is an unstated premise involved in the argument, and whenever you are confused, you can always use a negation test. So for question number 1, you are absolutely spot on, most of you. The answer choice should be option A. So use negation test for D. There should be, they say there should not be more protection for passengers. The argument can still be made. The argument does not get damaged at all. And therefore I think we can remove D. So I hope you know the difference between an assumption and an inference. If you do not, go back to the drawing board, solve it, and then come back. Here is the next question. So one argument, one paragraph containing information, 3 conclusions. You need to determine which one of the 3 or which ones of these 3 are valid conclusions. All right, okay. So what do we know? First, cases of Nipah infection below the age of 60 will be non-fatal. Can't say. Why? What we know is that fatally affects vulnerable people with low immunity more than people in normal health. More than. It does not mean that they do not get affected at all. Second, people above 60 do not follow a healthy diet and fitness routine. How do we know that? So all we know is that people above the age of 60 are the high risk group. What we can infer from it is that people above the age of 60 have low immunity. Now from there, how do you go to they do not follow a healthy diet and fitness routine? Can't say. Low immunity, yes. They don't follow healthy diet and fitness routine? No. Maybe they have low immunity just because of their age. You don't know that, right? So second is also can't say, but third on the other hand is true, and that is why our answer here should be option C. Okay, so here is the next one. Question number 3 on your screen. This song of Diljit Dosanjh, Palpita, it has somehow become an earworm today. दिमाग में ये गाना चल रहा है यार बारी बारी. Palpita. Oh, Victor, I am usually live 2 to 3 times every day. It's just that not every session takes place on YouTube. So I'm mostly live once here, once on the app in a public session, and once again on the app for a private class of my students. In fact, I have a class at 9 with my students today. So once we are done with this session, I'll go join them and we'd work on grammar. Hanji, so okay, let's go ahead and have a look. So question number 3. Did you start here? Did you start off by reading the question stem? Because if you did not, you must. Okay, so there is a company that says employees don't leave them. So its employees do not leave, and here are the reasons: as they like the total freedom given to them in their work, the informal work environment, and the meritocracy driven ethics of the company. Okay, so and this, the context is that this is an industry where a lot of young employees anyway transition or change jobs. So we are being asked to strengthen or support. So how do we strengthen? There are only 2 ways, or make that 3. So you can add another premise. You can give me some fact, some information that supports the conclusion, or you can add some support for the existing premises. You can add some support for the existing premises. So that support can come in the way of an example, a fact, a piece of statistics, and then the third and the last way is you can state the assumption. So when I look at these, all the answers, so a lot of you have given C. C says many of the company's senior employees have worked at other computer companies. Therefore, its employees do not leave. Therefore, so many of the senior employees of Excel software have worked at other companies. Therefore, Excel software's employees do not leave the company. Does it act as a premise? No. Does it provide support to what is mentioned here already? Does it provide support to the different factors like total freedom, informal work environment, meritocracy? No. It is not even an assumption, so C is ruled out. Okay, D. D says, okay, look at D carefully. For those of you who have marked D, तुम मेरे सामने बैठे होते, मैं ना कान मरोड़ देना था तुम्हारा. हाँ, ध्यान दो. In an informal work environment, people do not openly discuss any problems or issues they face at work. And if you do not openly discuss, then it is a positive or a negative. Damn, that's a negative. And if it is a negative, it is going to weaken the argument. Why would it strengthen? This weakens. Rule it out. Come on. But look at B. B says a formal work environment leads to something positive, and therefore that is the environment which is preferred by people. So that can go on to support the part that I am about to highlight. Okay, let me just switch over to the highlighter. This. So you notice the informal work environment part. This option B goes on to prove that people like informal work environment. Employees like informal work environment. So this goes on to strengthen it, which in turn will obviously strengthen the argument, and that is why the answer is going to be B. Come on. D nahi yaar. Okay. Here is the next question for you. सुश्री says I don't like. भाई मैं कान भी तो प्यार से मरोड़ता ना यार, ऐसे थोड़ी. उसके पीछे की भावना तो देखो. इतना प्यार कि मुझसे बर्दाश्त नहीं हो रहा. तुम अच्छा कैसे नहीं कर रहे? Okay, so fourth guys, fourth. अरे जय हो. I'm assuming you've given me the answer of this question, huh? Okay, so how do we weaken? So first up, you know, every argument has a conclusion. The conclusion is supported by some reasons. Those reasons can be stated or unstated. When they are stated, we call them premises. When they are unstated, we call them assumptions, right? So this entire structure is called an argument. Now the only way of weakening the arguments is the only way, and I'll emphasize this, the only way of weakening an argument is by proving these premises or the assumptions wrong. Any other method will not be called weakening. So you either state the opposite of the premises or the assumptions. So, you know, an answer choice that states the opposite of a premise or an assumption is going to weaken, or an answer choice that casts doubt on a premise or an assumption. You know, it gives you some fact, some example, some piece of statistics that makes you doubt that fact, that tells you that, hey, this fact may not be true. That weakens. So either you disprove it outright or you cast aspersions on it. These are the only two ways. So here, one of the assumptions was that the team is great, Rahul is mediocre, that is why the team is not winning. But then look at option C. Option C says that the teams that he get are the weakest teams. So it's possible that without Rahul, the team would have gone on to do even worse. Right now we are blaming Rahul, but what if the team played 10 matches and lost all the 10? Let's say, okay, we're talking about 12 months, so let's say the team played 50 matches and lost 49 of them, then came in Rahul, and now the team the team went on to win 6-7 matches. So the percentage wise, he could still be the lowest. You know, he won only 12-14% of the matches. But notice that he has actually improved their winning percentage almost 6-7 times. So therefore, C. Any other option that we have picked up? Okay, B, coaches, assistants. Okay, how does B weaken? So B says that, okay, B in fact tells us that Rahul was given assistants, physiotherapists, dietitians. He still could not produce the result. This actually goes on to strengthen. This means that we cannot even blame the lack of support staff. He had a lot of other things available to him, a lot of other people, support staff available to him as well. So B in fact will go on to strengthen. It's not going to weaken. Next question. Strengthen. So please start here. Please start here. I'll keep reminding. Sushri, yes, we were facing a problem in going live. So there are some classes where we go live on YouTube and app simultaneously. Unfortunately, there is some problem that occurred at the back end and we could not really run it simultaneously. I think we faced this problem once earlier as well. So it's been an issue. So unfortunately, yes, we could not go on the app, but then I could go live only on one of the two places. So we just chose YouTube over app today. But I'll meet you there at 9 in case I have a class with your batch. Okay, so whenever the question asks us to strengthen the argument, what do? The first thing that we do is we figure out the conclusion. So here is the conclusion. Then we go to an answer choice that either supports this conclusion directly or it goes on to support what has been stated in the passage as premises, or it goes on to state the assumption. So here the conclusion is those who are saying online classes, lessons, tests sound the death knell for printed books are wrong. So there are people who say online classes will lead to this reality that the printed books will be finished. But the author says that's wrong. Printed books are here to remain. On what basis are we saying it? We are saying that, see, psychology professor provides material online, but people still take a printout and work. Right? So in a way, the assumption here is that, okay, if it is happening with one lecturer in one particular college, it is probably also happening in other colleges with other lecturers as well. Right? So option A goes on to support that assumption, and therefore it will strengthen. Let's look at B. Most students print reading material that is more than a few pages in length. Okay, but then B says most students print reading material that is more than a few pages in length. The paragraph, there are two things here. The paragraph is talking about online lessons and tests, and the premise that is given to you. The premise says that they even take a printout of their test, their assignments. So even tests and assignments. So this makes it a little tangential to the argument. Okay, so there are two issues. Number one, a few pages. Number two, we are talking about reading material. Whereas you realize in this particular argument, you need to have, do you want to have reading material or do you want to have study material? There's a difference between the two, right? So B goes a little beyond, and therefore A should still be preferred. Okay, so here is your next question. Oh, the strengthen, weaken, strengthen, weaken. Let's just keep working on these today. Anybody who knows how to identify an assumption will find this question easy. Okay, so basically when you say most of the members of the council receive substantial donations and contributions, and those companies stand to gain, they are going to vote in favor. So the assumption here is that when you receive donations, contributions from somebody, then you are likely to do what is beneficial for them. Right? But look at option B. It states the opposite of that assumption. It tells you that in the past we've seen instances, and that too often, okay, where they voted against the interests of their campaign contributors. So B goes on to negate the assumption. And if there is an option that goes on to negate an assumption, it is obviously going to weaken the argument. Then let's look at C. C says the new election code of conduct requires council members to reveal the source and the amount of contributions received during elections. Okay, so what? How does it weaken? The person who is making this claim already knows it. He already knows that they have received substantial donations and contributions. That is why he believes that they are going to vote in favor of the flyover. So C gives you something that is already known. So how would that go on to weaken the argument? Moreover, remember in the previous weakening question, what I told you, it's pretty straightforward. Any answer choice that claims to weaken needs to do just one thing. It should disprove a premise or an assumption. It should cast doubt on a premise or an assumption. If it does not do any of these two things, it's not going to weaken the argument. So in this case, do you notice C is stating what has already been stated as a premise and therefore can be ruled out. Okay, so use elimination. Use this process will help you in arriving at the answers faster. Here is the next question for you. Another weakening question, so think carefully. Why not A? Okay, let me have a look at it. What does A state? Oh, look at the argument itself. The argument says most of them have received it from them. And then if you go on to say some of them have also received it from environmental agencies, then okay, they may have, so what? How does it tell us that they are not going to vote in favor of that vote? No, that they're not going to support that vote. How would we know that? Seventh, Dipanshu. Dipanshu is the first one. Hirva, Sonali, absolutely right, guys. D it is, in fact, so that's our answer. I am entirely with you on this. Absolutely. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the next question. Now that you've gotten it right, our job is done. KKF, C merely says that we know plants release something which is carcinogenic. Okay, but then the person said here it is not because of those, it is because of the water. D tells you that they do release carcinogens, and it also tells you that they find their way into the water. So even that water, the property of causing cancer there is actually a result of those industries. Disproves him completely. So the question here is, which of the following, if true, support the conclusion above? So where is the conclusion? Easy to identify, starts with therefore. These words are superfluous. So the core is richness in biodiversity goes hand in hand with educational backwardness, even disregarding poverty levels. Irrespective of poverty levels, wherever you have greater biodiversity, you will see educational backwardness. So is there anything that goes on to support this conclusion? So you notice one of the assumptions involved in this argument is that somehow biodiversity goes on to affect education. It looks very far-fetched. I mean, if a particular area has a I mean, when I was going through this argument, I thought that I'd be asked to identify the logical flaw. When you give me a paragraph in isolation, say create a critical reasoning question, I'll probably create a logical flaw question out of it. Because okay, these two things are, remember causation, correlation is not causation. So I would have created that kind of a question. But the assumption here very clearly is that somehow biodiversity has an impact on the education level of the people who live in that region. So when I look at option C supports that assumption. Option C says that, hey, it is indeed true that biodiversity and education levels are connected. See, those places where you have low biodiversity, the education performance is better there. So this evidence somehow establishes or provides more support, brings in more believability to that assumption that biodiversity is connected with the education levels, and that is why we should choose C over E. So we do have an answer choice that supports the assumption, and anything that supports the assumption will automatically go on to strengthen the argument. So remember, here is a table. If you want to strengthen this table, what can you do? What can you do if you want to strengthen the table? Two things. You can either add more legs, or you can support the legs that are already there. You can make them stronger. And if you see an answer choice performing one of these two jobs, you're supposed to mark that as your answer. So here is your next question. 9th. Give it a shot. Before some of us make this silly mistake, let me highlight it. Normally examiner would type it in caps, but so what is the conclusion of Thomas Malthus? He said the planet would not be able to support human population for long, and then you have a reason here. Human population grows at geometric rate, food supply grows at an arithmetic rate. So population grows significantly faster than the rate at which the food can grow. Now, if you look at option A, this weakens because it contradicts this. Malthus says population grows, it says if the growth can be slowed. So this weakens. B says the food supply growth rate can be increased further. So this also weakens. So basically there is a mismatch at the rate at which humans grow and the rate at which the population grows, right? The population will zoom up while the food growth will be not keeping pace. So if you can slow down the population growth, or you can increase the food growth, the rate at which food grows, I think you would definitely be able to weaken. How about C? human system and natural system follow natural laws which have remained constant and will remain unchanged. This basically says that hey, we won't be able to change it. So this would go on to support what Malthus has said. So it would not undermine. This is actually going to strengthen, right? And not undermine is what? Strengthen. Okay, then D, human beings can colonize other planetary systems on an ongoing basis to accommodate a growing population. Oh, this is weak, but this still weakens. Why does it weaken? He says planet would not be able to support human population for long. If D is true, we will have human population on Earth. It is just that the excess population will be sent elsewhere. So we can continue to at least inhabit the planet. So it's relatively weak, but it still goes towards that element of weakening. So A, B and D weaken, C strengthens, and that is why it is going to be our answer. Here is the next one. Oh, this incidentally is a variation. It's actually a question that was asked in SNAP 2009. So just a couple of tiny changes made here. Otherwise, it's basically the same SNAP 2009 question. NMAT also tends to offer similar questions, so you'd find it relevant. Go ahead, give it a shot. Okay. A lot of C's coming in my way. And C, it is absolutely correct. That's right. So imagine 7% of train accidents result in death. So let us say that there were 100 train accidents. Out of these 100 train accidents, 7 train accidents led to people dying. Whereas out of every 100 car accidents, only 2 lead to death. But then, what if the number of car accidents is at least 1,000 times higher? So for every 100 train accidents, you actually get 100,000 car accidents. So 2% of 100,000, you can calculate it is going to be a lot higher than 7. And that is why C. So here is the next one. KKF, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Anything that does not undermine can be a side point too. You're absolutely right. So something that does not undermine, does not weaken means it either strengthens or is irrelevant. It has no impact. Right? Both of them can be termed as they do not undermine. So because we found something that strengthens, we can be absolutely sure that it definitely does not undermine, it in fact supports. And I'm sorry, the class is not exactly like, simultaneous. I mean, you and I are not exactly in sync. There's usually a lag of 14-15 seconds in which the whatever I say here reaches you, and then you respond. So by then I've moved on. So there are times I may not look at your chats or respond it in a near instant manner. We are able to do that on our app. Okay, so that's the amazing thing about the app. We are like we exist at the same point of time, but that's the challenge with YouTube. So 11th, what's your take? So Anirudh has an answer. Sushri Sonali, that's an answer for 11th. Okay, so the assumption here is that you need to have knowledge of technology, computer technology and information systems in order to decide cases that involve technical personnel. Option D says that no, you don't. In most of the cases you don't. So it definitely weakens, goes against the assumption. C, it will take a lot of time, effort and money to impart technical knowledge to every legal expert. So what? See, the argument is about judges. C is about every legal expert. And even if it does that, so what? So what? I mean, if you are not in a position to judge, you should not still be passing a verdict. If it requires a long time to get that knowledge, go get that knowledge. I mean, becoming a judge is not a joke, right? They anyway read a lot. They have to go through at least around 5-6 years of training. So maybe they can spend another year or two. Once again, I will draw your attention back to weakening means stating the opposite of a premise or an assumption. Does C do that? It does not. That is why it should be ruled out. Okay, Kev, in that case, you should choose the one that strengthens because it will be a better answer choice. That's diametrically opposite from not undermining. So that will still be a better option. Okay, next question. Okay, so what is the conclusion here? Whatever comes after thus, it is clear that more people have started playing cricket in Chennai. So which one tells you that it is indeed the case? Hirva E says they often gift cricket bats to children interested in cricket. So are those children playing cricket? And do these children... okay, what if I live in Delhi, right? And then my nibblings, let's say I have nibblings, I have nephews, I have nieces. So let us say that I see one nephew of mine who is interested in cricket, who happens to live in Rajasthan. I buy a cricket bat and gift it to him. So how would that tell you that people in Delhi are playing more cricket because of that bat being sold? So similarly, I mean, if instead of Delhi, if I live at Chennai, live in Chennai, and then I send it over to Rajasthan as a gift for some child, that may not necessarily prove it. But C says majority of these bats were indeed sold to the residents of Chennai. So the bats have not gone out. They are there. In E, we had two problems. They may not be in Chennai, and the children to whom the bats were gifted to may not be playing with them. So that's where C becomes a better answer choice as compared to E. And B is anyway irrelevant to strengthening or weakening this argument. B says other towns have also seen this increase. Okay, so what? So how do we know that more people have started playing cricket in Chennai? Okay, next one. This should be easy. And I'm putting extra pressure on you by calling it easy. Fourfold means increased 4 times, 400%. So why do people in rural areas have more purchasing power as compared to urban areas? Money that city dwellers spend on food and housing can be spent by rural residents on other items. So the assumption, the rural residents do not have to spend as much money on food and housing as an urban resident, as a city dweller, which is captured in C, and therefore should be the answer. It's only one assumption here, so we can go by that. Okay, and here is the next one. So weaken. So in this particular question, there is a reason cited behind the black spider monkeys of Brazil becoming endangered, right? We want to weaken it. So the assumption here is that human activities or deforestation and logging are the only factors that are making them endangered. There is no other factor at play. Okay. Now, some of us have chosen C. Habitat loss in the Congo basin has seen no significant decrease in the count of dryas monkeys in the region. Can it weaken? Says, okay, dryas monkeys are monkeys, black spider monkeys are monkeys. If they are not affected, then chances are these should also not be affected, weakens. Some of us have chosen B. Scientists have discovered a certain allele, alternate gene in the black spider monkey, which indicates that microevolutionary extinction is setting in. Microevolutionary extinction is some changes in the species because of mutation, migration, genetic drift or natural selection, which are making them extinct, which are making them unsuitable for their environment. So here we are saying that they are becoming unsuitable for that environment, not because of the human activities, but because of some sort of genetic change as listed by one of these four. So this brings in another factor. This also weakens because it contradicts the assumption. And now look at the question carefully. It says, which of the following, if true, most weakens the author's claim? So which one of these two weakens it more? B directly tells you about black spider monkeys. It says they are becoming extinct because of genes, because of some change in their genetic profile. Whereas C says that, okay, there are some other types of monkeys, they are not getting affected, so maybe these are also not affected. So in C, we'd have to assume that black spider monkeys are similar to dryas monkeys when it comes to their response to the environment. If we assume that, then C weakens. But in B, we don't have to assume anything. And that is what makes B a better answer choice. That's what makes B more impactful for this particular argument. So once again, it's not that C does not weaken, it does. But when I compare it with B, B weakens it more because it does not require any assumption. That is why for question number 14, we should go ahead and mark B as our answer. So guys, that's what I brought for you today. If you liked working with me, don't forget to like this session. That'll motivate me to keep coming up with more such sessions for you. And you know, every year when the exam comes out, there are some changes. How would you know those changes? That's how. So join us on 20th of October, where we'd give you the first impression and a detailed analysis of the kind of exam that we are going to get this year. Okay, and you can actually enroll for our OMAT classes, other management entrance test classes, if your focus is not the CAT but these other exams, right? So that's it from me today. I look forward to meeting you guys once again really soon. And how soon would that be? I'm actually taking a session at 12 tomorrow, but that's more for CAT 24 guys, where I'd sit and talk about the various B schools that they can target. If you also want to know that can help you in finding out which all colleges to apply to now, then join in and we can go ahead and talk about this. Okay, so that's it from today. That's it for today. Have a nice evening ahead and I'd see you soon. Until then, stay safe, stay focused, stay in touch. Take care.